Welcome winners to the Win to Win. I'm your host, Sonovia Williams, and today I'm sitting with the wonderful, phenomenal, amazing Sha King. Sha King, the nutritionist and nutrition coach that you probably heard so much about all over the internet, Facebook, you name it. She's on talk shows all the time, always spreading the word about the best way we can get ourselves holistically well in terms of eating, our mind, our emotions. And so today we want to sit with this entrepreneur. We want to sit with this small business owner who is holding her own in the industry of fitness, nutrition, and counseling. And so it is my honor and my pleasure to bring to the show Sha King. And to start off, we're going to have a little fun. We're going to ask Sha to please share with us something that is a little known fact about Sha, something that may even surprise family and friends.
Well, thank you for having me, Sonovia. It's a pleasure to be with you today. Now, surprise family or friends? Maybe friends, but I don't necessarily know what a surprise family.
Okay.
So I have this thing where I'm a worship dancer. And so one of the things I do before I go to bed, most of the times, is I worship. And I even go sometimes and I put on my worship garment. So yeah, I'm a dancer. And so my kids tell me that I do liturgical to everything that I hear. So yeah, that's one of the things. They often tease me about that.
Wow. Now that right there, that's a glimpse behind the curtains.
Yes, that's definitely true.
Some people have Netflix, and they turn on Netflix and that's them winding down. Mm-hmm. But no, you get on your garments.
Yes.
And you just break it out.
Yes, into worship. Yeah, and I find myself sometimes having to do that before I go to sleep, or even if I'm in the kitchen, I find myself dancing.
Oh, wow. I love it. Because it's worship.
Yes.
It's worship. And so that's amazing, because when we see you in the field, mm-hmm. and when we see you, you're in that position where you're counseling, mm-hmm. and you're very, you got the facts, you bring it to us, and this is what you do. This is, we won't stop to think, oh wow, you think tonight she's gonna put on her garment and do 3 pirouettes?
And they don't use that against me.
No, because it's a part of why it's so wonderful.
Thank you.
Right, so what we want to know more about now about you, Sha, is if you share with us a little bit about Sha growing up, Sha's childhood. Tell us about life for Sha growing up, the adolescent years, even into high school. Tell us about your life, your family life.
Oh wow, that brings me to such smiles, because I had the pleasure of growing up with my grandmother. And my mom was brave enough, at the time she was a young married, young adult, had 2 daughters, my sister and myself, and she was brave enough to give us up to my grandmother so she would be able to go and make a life for us. And so, there was times I often thought about that, but today I am so grateful that she did, because growing up with my grandmother was just one of the most memorable times in my life. I know that's what made me who I am today. And so I attribute it to Olga Mae Ramming Thompson,
yes.
and Reverend Arnold. Yes, hey Grammy. To growing up, when you are growing up on the island, it is a little bit different from city life. And so you have the opportunity to play in the streets, you have the opportunity to stay out late, always get to go in the water. And I took advantage of that. I was pretty much known as a tomboy, yeah. I would be the girl that climbed the trees. I would be the girl that go fishing. I would be the girl that we talk about. There's an area on the island that they call Josh. It was actually in the fields, and I would be the girl that went crabbing in back of Josh.
Wow.
So I was always in the streets, or in the yard, as we call it. That was a part of my life,
Yes.
I never stayed inside. I didn't make the beds. Today I still don't like to make beds.
Yes. But you will catch a crowd.
Yeah, I will catch a crowd. I will definitely catch a crowd.
You have said so much. Oh my goodness, I can't wait to unpack what you, even in that little statement, right?
Yeah.
So first of all, you said the island. Which island would that be?
There's only one, the big yard. Atlas. Just say it. Long Bay Keys.
Yes.
Give it up.
Okay, Sha, first of all, before we come back to Grammy, because I definitely want to talk more about Grammy and the direct influence she would have had in your life. But let's talk about your love for nature, because what you do and what you promote so much is natural, taking care of your body through natural remedies. You go to the extent that all of your products are organic. They are top of the line in terms of you are adamant that none of the artificial junk that's out there is in your products. And so tell me, how do you think that this whole idea of being brought up in the big yard on the island has something to do with your love, or kind of why you are so intent on having things natural and enjoying this type of organic type of eating and living? Do you think it's because of the influence of your growing up?
It's amazing you asked that question, because the thing is, the short answer is absolutely yes. However, I just really connected the dots, I want to say about 6-7 years ago. I was actually on a talk show, and someone had asked me, I was talking about when it comes to transitioning in eating, and I was referring to something that I refer to as good, better, best. And so I was referring to, of course, fresh vegetables being the best, then frozen being better, and well, in the middle, and of course, canned being the least. And then at that particular time, I made a comment that at the age of 14 was the first time that I had vegetables in a can.
Wow.
And I was kind of taken aback. I didn't eat it, and because I didn't know vegetables came in a can. And so, yeah, 7 years ago, I finally connected the dot. But because I know that God has shaped us in my mother's womb, I know that he had a plan from the beginning, and me being in Andrews growing up on the island was the major part of that. But I literally connected the dots just some 7 years ago.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. And so what you're saying is so phenomenal, because you're saying that even the idea of your mom having given you up to your grandmother, that was actually divinely orchestrated.
A part of the plan.
A part of the plan that actually put you on this path that brought you right exactly where you are today. And the reason why I'm highlighting that, because we understand that for many people who may have been given up by a mother or parent, for them it's the reverse. They are burdened, they're disturbed, some are angry, and some find that an obstacle that they can't get past, and it affects their entire life. But what you're saying is, if we would stop and look at it as a divine order for destiny, here's a way we can release ourselves and embrace this experience.
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head. The thing is, when I was growing up, I only had a picture of what my mom looked like. My grandmother would make sure, take it out and show it to me. And so I had this vision of what my mom looked like. And the thing is, when I saw her for the first time as a teenager, I recognized, okay, this is the woman that I loved. And so it took me, of course, having my first child, myself, and having that experience of giving birth, it took me at that particular time to kind of come to grips and recognize what a powerful, loving, strong individual she was, to be able to give me and my sister to my grandmother, because her thought was only that she needed a place where we could be provided for, and we could be nurtured, and we could be loved. And at that particular time, she wasn't able to do that. And so I see her as my hero, nothing else.
Thank you. That is awesome. And I'm sure it's going to help somebody to be able to refocus and take a new mindset and release themselves and start to investigate, what is it that being in that environment I learned that was probably driving me to destiny. And so let's talk about Grammy. So, as you said, definitely Grammy is part of the reason why you are the person you are today. So let's talk about Grammy. What was her methods with you? Like, do you remember especially any wisdom keys? Things you still say the day that, Grammy say.
Oh my goodness.
That helped form shape.
Yeah, well, one of the things I can tell you, she always pulled my bottom lip, because she said, "Sha, you asking too much questions." I would always ask questions, but what was funny was, Grammy never answered me directly. She had a lot of sayings, and again, a lot of those sayings, I didn't really recognize the power in a lot of things she said. until I became an adult. I remember my grandmother was crying this particular day, and as I look back and reflect, I know it had to be something that was probably disturbing her or something that was painful. But at that particular time, that's when I learned about tears of joy. She said, "Girl, you don't know what this is? Grammy happy." And so the tears were just rolling down. I said, "Wait a minute, Grammy, you know, so when you're happy, tears roll down." And so I find myself connecting to when I feel extremely happy, I find myself rolling with the tears. And so I got that from my grandmother. Yes.
What was one of the warnings you feel she would have given you that would have kept you out of maybe some situation and circumstances, or being able to handle certain challenges in life?
I would think about having my lip pulled. That would be one of them. Grammy would always protect us in a way that was slightly different. Growing up on the island, they would always make sure that girl children and boys children were separated. Grammy was very overprotective with us in that area. She would make sure that there were no boy children when we would have to go out. She would make sure that if we were going out, that it would be my sister, myself, and some other person from the community that was older, that we could come back together. And one of the most valuable things Grammy taught me was time. Time. She was like, "Be back on time now." And so I take that with me today. Time. Anyone who knows Shay, listen today. Yes. Listen, I'm a woman of time. Yes. So there are, just so many, as it comes to my thoughts, so many things that my Grammy left with me that I hold dear today in terms of how I run my business and how I run my life.
You see, that's a nugget. Okay, that's a nugget, because your value for time, as your Grammy has nurtured and cultured that and given you that discipline, I'm certain that's a part of a key to your success, because you are someone who deals with multiple clients.
Yes.
And you have such a wide array of services and products that, the idea of keeping all that and managing all of that, and clients, and time to do your administrative work, then you do fitness, time to schedule in fitness, and let's not talk about the fact that you're a mother with kids and still rearing a young teenager. So all this you have to factor in. Yeah. So understanding how to have the discipline of the value for time, and then how to maneuver that in business. I think that's a key that anyone coming up in business, or in business and wondering why sometimes the business is overwhelming you. We need to understand what you understood from Grammy, that time is of the essence.
Yes, it is. Time is so important, because if you're dealing with, first of all, your time, and then other people's time, when you look at just connecting those two together, I like to use an example, so I'm late, then I make my person that has given me the service late for the next person who is not fully aware of it. And so I have to always think about paying it forward when I think about time. And the fact of the matter is, something may come up, but it's just a phone call away. It's just a text away today, a WhatsApp away today, to just say, I'm running a little bit late, pardon me. Yes. And one of the things I also pay attention to is if someone comes in and they acknowledge that they're late, you say, you accept it and you say thank you. Sometimes people say, "Oh, no, it's not a big deal." But it is a big deal, because the fact of the matter is that their lateness is affecting someone else that is not seen or has to be rendered service as well for that person as well for that day.
Goodness. See, my thing, Shay, is that the wind beneath your wings, it's the invisible things that make the success that we see on Shay possible. Yeah. And right now you are defining some invisible things within your character that you bring to your business. Value for time and value for people. Yes. And so already we're learning the things that we need to focus on if we want to share the same type of success that you have. And so thank you, already rolling and we love it. When you would have finished, how old were you, first of all, when you left the island?
I think 13 or 14.
High
13.
School? High school years?
13, yes.
So you'd have done high school in Providence? Or?
Well, actually, no. I went to Grand Bahama. Yeah, Grand Bahama. I left here because I went to Andrews All-Age School, and I did up to the primary level, 6th grade, and then I came into Grand Bahama. Yeah.
So what was that like for you?
Ooh, that was definitely interesting. The city children were awful. OMG.
OMG.
were so cruel. Let me tell you, if my grandmother did not, this is back to Grammy again, right? The thing is, when we grew up on the island, and it's funny because my mom is like truly light skinned and my dad is like truly dark skinned. And so, I got that beautiful black skin.
I know, right?
So my grandmother used to always say to me, she used to call me her black, beautiful princess, right?
My.
And she did it all the time. No one had ever called me black at any point in time growing up on the island. Now, when I came to Grand Bahama,
Yes.
I think one of the children said to me, "Hey, Blackie," and then I said, "Thank you," because I thought, just like my grandmother, they was paying me a compliment, and so people looked around and was like, "Why is she excited?" And I was like, "Thank you so much," because my grandmother always aligned the word black with beautiful. So when they said, "Hey, Blackie," I was like, "Thank you so much," and so of course I was talking the neighborhood, right? But and Grand Bahama, the kids were different. They really were different because we were, at the time, they think that we were thin, tall, and really dark skinned. It was just in those days. I remember children always being tall and thin.
Yes.
I didn't remember seeing overweight children in those days when we grew up, and so they just thought that we were extremely thin and extremely dark, and so they talked about that a lot. But for me, it was just like, I'm getting all these compliments now that I'm here in the city,
Yes.
So
And so, but again, your sense of identity was so solid within you because of Grammy.
Yes.
That something like that definitely could put a child in a whirlwind.
Yes.
You say thank you.
I certainly
That's the
did.
cutest thing ever.
Yes. I certainly did.
So Shay, so you were able to make it through the cruelty of the kids in high school years.
Yeah.
So you're finished with high school. What was your dream and vision for yourself at that point?
And this may sound really, really crazy. I saw myself just talking and teaching people. But it wasn't a teacher. But it was almost like, and it had nothing to do with health at the time. I saw myself as, and at that particular time I didn't know what the word was, but I saw myself as someone that was inspiring people and talking to a lot of people to help them to get answers. At that time, I didn't know what that was. I didn't know what that was or what it would look like. I always saw myself, as a matter of fact, in a circle, and with a lot of children around me, and just talking to them and telling them, no, this is not the way you do it. This is the way you do it. And I always saw myself saying, Grammy, I got it right? Like I was referring back to her in terms of the teaching.
Yes.
And giving it forward.
That's amazing.
Mm-hmm.
So you saw yourself already in some type of mentorship
Yeah.
role, but you had no idea how to define it.
No.
So what did Shay do? What did you actually do? Did you get a job? Did you go off to university? What did you do?
Actually, I did a little bit of both. I went, first of all, and started working what I had called at that time my dream job, because it was in an environment where I got to see a lot of persons, and I was able to talk to a lot of people, and so I figured this is it. I'm talking to these people, right? I'm talking! And so one of the things that happened was I was in that valley of decision, was deciding whether I wanted to go off to school. Because at the time, my sister was saying to me, Shay, we're going to go off to school. And I was like, I don't know if I want to do that, man. I like this environment that I'm in. I'm getting to talk to people, And so she said, well, I'm going to go, I said, well, you go. I said, I'm going to come eventually. Yes. And somewhere in between coming eventually, a whole whirlwind of things happened. I met a young man, and the rest is history.
Okay.
Yeah.
So now life begins to happen.
Yes.
This is Shay's life now.
Yes.
Now Shay's standing up. So you're a wife now?
Yes, I'm a wife.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And so how then now, becoming a wife and a mother, thinking now, just a few years ago, the dream, the mentor, how does all of this play out when you become a mother and a wife? Do you put all the dreams in the back burner, or do they kind of somehow, do you live them out? What happened?
Yeah, even when I think about it now, you want me to tell you something? I have always been an intentional person. Again, because a lot of these buzzwords and words we now fully understand the meaning and the scope, I recognize that I was always there. When I was a young girl, I would say things. I remember saying that I'm not going to work for anyone once I'm 40. I remember saying that as a young girl. I remember saying, if I get married, my husband is going to take care of me because I watched my grandfather take care of my grandmother. I remember saying that I'm not going to have any children until I get married. I remember saying these things as a young girl. And so I remember when I started courting my husband, or he was courting me, some way or the other, whoever was doing the courting, at the time, I remember thinking in my head, wait a minute, what is going to happen here in terms of me going off to school and finishing university and all of this stuff? I started to think, somewhere in here I need to make a decision. But the thoughts came up, and then I just allowed them to drift. The thoughts came up, and then I allowed them to drift.
Okay.
And so, somewhere in between meeting him and getting married, the thoughts keep coming up. And then as I looked at my children and I started to find joy and peace in that, I said, well, you know what? I have to obviously put my dreams on hold.
Okay.
And so, I never thought I wasn't going to go back. It wasn't even a question.
Yes.
I looked at my daughters at the time and I said, they're worth me putting my dream on hold.
And so when did you actually go back and start step one with the dream, and why?
But in this case, I got kind of thrusted into it.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
I got thrusted into it. I remember, I want to say about 8 years ago, I went to my husband at the time, I want to say 10 years, maybe 10 years. And I kind of reminded him of what he had promised me in terms of being able to go back to school, being able to start to do some of the things that I wanted to do. Because I intentionally made a decision at that time. It wasn't him that I am going to have my family. I'm going to put whatever I needed to do on hold, and I was going to take care of my family, homeschool my children. That was a part of my mandate as well. And then I would make the opportunity when I felt like it was the right time to start to go back into my dream. And I started having conversations with my husband and asking him about, well, when can I go back? Well, can I go ahead and do this? And it was just always a place where it was not now, not now.
Wow.
And so when he decided to walk out of our home,
Okay.
I guess that was my opportunity there for me to decide, okay, Shay, there's no excuse, there's no reason why now you can't go back to do what it is that you know that you was born to do. And so that was the beginning of, I want to say, the new Shay.
Yes, absolutely.
The beginning of the new Shay. And I can tell you, let me tell you something. Now, my grandmother used to say, God is faithful.
Yes.
Listen to me. At that particular time,
Yes.
I married those words when she used to say that. I could honestly say God is so faithful. Because when I thought at that time, after being on my own, after 25 years and having 5 beautiful children, I looked up and I said, so what do I do, God?
Wow.
And you know, he reminded me of his faithfulness. And he says, yeah, I'm faithful. How much more so that I'm going to take care of you? I do it for the birds. I do it for all of the things in the air. Watch me do it for you. So I was reminded again of his faithfulness. So that was the beginning of just recreating what you see here today.
See that whole idea of recreating and reinvention?
Yes.
Many of us go through that process in life if we can find the strength.
Yes.
And so you made a statement, you said, when your husband would have left the
Yes.
marital home, left the promise he gave to you, I mean, I'm thinking about the heart of that.
Mm-hmm.
That could be very devastating, discouraging, and burdensome.
Yes.
And you said you said to yourself, well, there's no excuse, I can't pursue my dream now.
Right.
But actually, for many people, that is an excuse.
Mhm.
Because the excuse is now, I'm single,
Right.
and I still have, how many kids?
Yeah, 5.
I have 5 kids,
Mhm.
right? I have bills to pay.
Yes.
I have to find, I don't know, whatever all the things were you had to keep
Yeah.
together.
Mhm.
That is a lot. That's an excuse for many people
Yeah.
at that point.
Mhm.
But you said you found the wind.
Yes.
And the wind was, God is faithful.
Yes. That was the one for me.
That's powerful.
And I attribute doing counseling to getting me to where I am. Now, sometimes people even say to me, Shay, it appears that you went through this really quickly. Now, for me, it didn't feel quick at all.
Absolutely not.
It didn't feel quick at all. However, when I talk to a lot of persons, they would say things like, oh, it's only been a certain amount of years and you seem recovered.
Yes.
It's not that you recovered, it's you're in a healing process. But I can tell you, there was always wind for me. There was always wind. God, listen to me. Yahshua was today my wind.
Yes.
I can tell you, but I know it required work as well. And so I was that girl that just buckled up my boots and I did what I needed to do.
What I really like, and I'm being encouraged that people need to pay attention to, is the fact that you said you got counselors.
Yeah.
In the multitude of counselors, there's safety.
Yes.
And so you actually made steps to help your process of recovery. And so the reason I'm going to kind of stay here for a minute is because if you haven't been in a tragedy before and you're doing business, you at some point you're going to go through some type of tragedy, or let's look at a situation like now, a crisis, a global crisis happening in the midst of this time that we're speaking, and that same resolve, the same methods you had to apply at some point. If we're going to be in this entrepreneurship, small business ownership life, we're going to need to know how to recover or we'll lose all. If we don't recover all, we'll lose all.
Yes, recovery is key. The thing is, I know we're in a society where we think, you know, quote unquote, telling your business or telling people what's happening with you is a shameful thing. I've been taught very differently. And in that process, I recognize me being able to share my story, being able to connect with other like-minded sisters and king brothers. I recognize that I wasn't a lone one. And I recognize that I had support and I had help. And so if there was anything outside of Yahshua, get to know him, that I would recommend would be counseling. And counseling not to blame, but more to heal, to recognize who you are. I got married very early. I think I was 22.
Wow, yeah,
22. Yeah, 22. And so I had to learn who Shay was. I had to get to know myself. I had to get to know and love myself, for that matter. And so it was a new experience for me. It was a loving experience. And it was a good one. It is a good one, actually. Yeah.
Shay, having gone through that type of rejection in business, do you find that sometimes you have to deal with maybe rejection and no's in your business? Maybe people who maybe don't show you the support, or people who, you know, you may put out this brilliant idea and this product idea and you go and you get no's from people who you just kind of thought would jump on board with you.
Right.
Do you ever have to apply this, what you learned in recovery process, to just surviving in business?
No. No, not at all. I'm a different girl. My grandmother deposited so much in me that it's very rare. I want to say just very rare that I'm affected by when someone says no, or they say something like, oh, that's not going to work. Normally for me, especially now that I am a single woman, a businesswoman, if someone says no, I usually look up and I say, okay, God, I need to hear from you. That's what I usually do. Because again, I balance the fact of that when someone comes to me in wisdom and giving me some information, I don't just necessarily shun it, but I don't ever put it to a place where I'm like it's just not a lot that shakes me. And I have a rule now, 24 hours, then I shake it off and I keep moving.
That's it. Awesome.
Yeah.
you set the time.
Yeah.
You have 24 hours to bother me.
Yes, 24 hours. Yeah, and I keep moving, because longer than that, it will start to affect you. And one of the things I've learned as a nutritionist is your body keeps score. And when you keep all of this stuff in, the person who's actually said it to you has already moved on. They're doing what it is that they need to do. And so, and then there's a part of me that's vain. I'm thinking about wrinkles. I'm thinking about all these other things that's going to happen. So I'm ready to move on in 24 hours. Yeah. I usually go to God and I ask him, is there any wisdom in what it is that this king brother or this queen sister is saying to me? And usually he gives me an answer.
So, I love it.
Yeah.
So it is your sense of identity that keeps you strong in those type of negative or could be perceived negative situations, because sometimes, like you say, they're just a learning opportunity.
Yeah.
A no is a learning opportunity, right? So, but it's your sense of self-identity. And so what I guess we need to do then, as people who want to be leaders in our businesses, we need to, if we did not have your Grammy or that person in our lives,
Right.
it sounds as if we are going to have to begin to practice self-affirmation
Yes.
at this point.
Yes.
And and actually, as you're getting into business or if you're already doing it, actually begin to make those statements and start to recognize who we are so that we can better deal with the woes and challenges of, and I know that you actually did a video because you produce videos. So it's so amazing, right? So let's not even get on the innovation of Sha and the creativity of Sha and how you just keep bringing it. You just keep bringing it, and now we understand what your source is.
Yes.
You don't just go in your mind and make up things.
No.
You have a source, right? You have faith, and all of this is working together, and you just keep moving and moving and moving, and we see in the wind, W-I-N, and now we understanding the wind.
Right.
And so I remember, though, in one of the videos you created, you did an affirmation video. And so that's a part of what you do.
Yes, absolutely. It's so important for you to first be able to affirm yourself. That is one of I call like the foundations, if you will, when you're thinking of being a businesswoman, an entrepreneur, even a single woman, or a woman that might just gone through a divorce or some type of tragedy or trauma in their life. Affirmations is something that you're doing to affirm yourself. And I often say to my clients, affirmations is something that you do even if you don't necessarily feel it or even believe what it is that you're saying when you're doing it. And eventually, your body transforms and transfer what it is that you're saying. And it takes a transformation first from the mind, and then the body comes along. And so even when I think about affirmations, I can tell you, when I started saying them, I am, I can, I will, I didn't necessarily believe that. At that particular time, I didn't necessarily believe that, because for me, that was the beginning of my broken years. That was the beginning of my years where I needed to find Sha and started to heal and put myself back together again. Humpty Dumpty on the wall. More than 50% of mature adults living in the Bahamas and the Caribbean show visible signs of photoaging due to sun exposure. Nowadays, in addition to the sun, there are other factors that can contribute to old-looking skin, such as bad Bahamian average diet, constant stress, excessive alcohol consumption, not enough sleep, and yes, even smoking. If you truly want to look significantly younger and more attractive, one must take a holistic approach along with a daily skincare restorative routine. With that said, do you want amazing, super soft, tight-looking skin, revitalizing your uneven skin tone and dull complexion? Well, this already liked superfood now has a new look for inside and outside. It's Sea Moss Gel. So whether you are a mature woman or man, say hello to your skin's new best friend. Glowing Skin Sea Moss Gel Facial Mask. Available now. And so Sha, what you offer as a holistic nutritionist and coach, obviously you deal with the mind, the body, and the spirit, the motivation. It almost seems to me as if every entrepreneur needs to come to you, because let's think about it. You need the energy. You need to be fit in order to actually physically produce whatever your business is. Absolutely.
If you have a type of business where you're seated all day, they need to understand how to stay fit, to keep that energy and that drive going mentally, how to stay grounded, how to heal in a type of tragic or challenging situation. Right. So we all need what you do anyway. So tell me about, now that we're in this crisis, what was business life like for you prior to COVID, And tell me, how has that changed now that we're in the midst of this crisis, business-wise? How has it affected you?
Good question. So first, let me say this. Every coach needs a coach. I have several of them myself. I felt like, and I think I might have mentioned this to a couple of my Queen sisters before, that I felt like God had given me a head start with COVID because I was in that season of preparation. I was in the season of learning how to create my videos, learning how to create all of the digital things that I now know how to do myself. I was at the time back in school again and finishing up my degree. So everything that was happening to me before COVID was focused really on getting myself what I needed in terms of information and certification to launch myself out. And so COVID happened.
Yes.
And so when I think of COVID, I'm so grateful. I'm extremely grateful because I remember lying down and the Holy Spirit said to me, well done. Now you have everything it is that you need to go out there. And I was like, what am I going to do? I mean, people are not spending money. People are not trying to do anything. And God gave me specific. He said, don't do anything new. I just want you to continue to do what it is you're doing and take care of the existing clients that you have. COVID, I was one of those people that my business grew larger than I had expected. There wasn't any day where I couldn't be a blessing to a queen, a sister, or a king brother. So I feel really grateful. But I contributed to, one, being disciplined, and two, doing the work. Doing the work even when it looks like nothing is happening. Staying consistent and disciplined. So in the morning, if I needed to get up a little earlier, I would, in order to have my me time, my meditation, my worship, to do my affirmations. And I needed to make sure that my day was set up and prepared spiritually as well as mentally to be able to take on my clients. And so I was seriously intentional about my time. And I took on some words during COVID when people would come and reach out to me, Sha, can you? And I would say, I'm sorry, I'm not available at this time. Those were words I took on because I was, if I had allowed myself, I could have been pulled in a lot of different directions. And the one thing the Spirit of God gave me was #focus. This is your season to stay focused.
Wow, I love it. And so, as business owners, especially either starting out or when your business is having a lull,
yes,
the tendency is to become a little bit afraid,
right,
a little bit nervous, a little bit anxious, especially if you have pending bills.
Yes.
And people could try to divert, get into other avenues that are not necessarily their zone or zone of genius. They get tempted just to make ends meet. But what you did was you said no. Based on what you were hearing in your spirit, no, stay this course. And so that is important because that takes courage.
Yes. That takes courage in a big way. Let me tell you this quick little story. When I became single, one of the things I had asked God for was I wanted to always be in a position to continue to bless and to always be able to offer my tithes as I normally would have. And another thing I said is I never want to look like an angry divorced woman. And God was faithful. I remember when COVID started, I was about to write the check for my tithes. And when Satan appeared, right, like on this shoulder right here, that's where Satan appeared. Yes. And I remember feeling anxiety, feeling like a heat come over my body that wasn't a hot flash. I remember Satan just saying to me, your head good? This is not the time to be paying tithes. COVID-19 is here. You need to, listen, you need to cut that tithes out and tell. And let me tell you something. one of the things I recognize is whenever I have a sense of anxiety or uneasiness about something that I know that is right, I get up immediately and I act on it. And for me, the reason why I do that is because I don't even want to give myself the opportunity to come up with an excuse. And so, listen, this is a true story. I got up and I ran down to my church. I wrote that check and I dropped it in the envelope and I was like, there you go, Satan. I was like, Sha paying her tithes. And can I tell you, during COVID, there was not one tithe payment that I missed. God is faithful.
Yes. And you recognize him as your source. He's
Yes.
proven himself to you over and repeatedly, and
Yes.
you wasn't about to close that window.
No, absolutely. The answer is no. I was not about to close the window.
So Sha, the win. I could look on Facebook or your website almost every day. Well, that might be a slight exaggeration, but quite often, and I would see something new. I remember I was able to get seasonings from you, and then there was this collection of tasty sea moss flavors
Right.
that you created that could be used in smoothies and your cooking.
Right.
And then I did this. I blinked, right? And there was exfoliating cream for the skin.
Right.
And I was like, okay, so Sha, I already know. She knows how to help you get right on the inside. And now she's showing you how to get it right on the outside. I want to know, how do you do it?
I know.
And still mommy, businesswoman, coach, mentor, nutritionist, cooking demos,
Yes.
retreats,
Yes.
YouTube videos. Okay, come on now, Sha. What is it? Tell us. How do you do it? Where do you get that drive? What is it? What are the words that happen that pop into your mind that say go? I don't know. Tell me.
Wow, oh my goodness. You know, when you lay it all out like that, it really makes you think. I've always been a person, no matter what, that, I'm going to get up and go. I used to say that I'm really strong, and I recognize going through all of the trials, going through the triumphs, just going through life, the journey. I can say that when people look at me, they say that I'm strong. I can truly say that my strength is Yahweh. As a single woman, whenever I feel like there's a lull in business, I look up and I say, God, what I need to do? Okay. I'm always having a conversation with God. And so I honestly find myself having to talk to God, and He gives it to me. He gives it to me. But I can tell you, one of the things I do immediately is I get up.
Yes.
And I get my phone out, because I'm not, a writer. Let me not say I'm not a writer, because I find myself writing, during this time. God just gives it to me. I prefer when I use my voice. And so I actually get out my phone and I start to record. Usually when I go to God and I ask for something, He gives it to me. He gives it to me either in the quietness of my meditation, or when I'm training with a client. When I need something for my clients that I'm coaching, He gives it to me. And so I don't ever take that for granted. When I need something, I just look up, say, Yahweh, what you got for me? Wow. And then I trust Him in the process.
Right. Sha, we could do this interview for about a day, because now you said meditation. Here's another key. Entrepreneurs, small business owners, if you're going to have all this responsibility, you're going to need to know how to have that quiet me time, that meditation time, and I know that's very important in your life. So I needed to highlight that.
Right.
Okay. So now, Sha, say something to that person who they need to find that courage to create that thing, release that thing, form that thing. They may have to make a big decision. I mean, they need to find a release within themselves. And so we know that you are doing it all the time. Just look into the camera and speak to them. tell them what they need in order for them to believe that they also could create something new, something never before seen, something that has their name on it. Because we get to, our lives are benefiting because you had the guts to create some things that were created, I mean, unique, created by Sha.
Yes.
And so there are some things that we are missing in this world because somebody needs a release to create something unique.
Yes.
And they just need to hear go or whatever they need to. I don't know.
Right, yes.
Could you speak to them?
Oh my goodness, that is such a powerful question. And you know what? It's surreal actually that I can actually speak to you about this because there's nothing like my grandma used to say, you know, when you wear that shoe yourself. One of the things I can tell you is, first of all, when it comes to what it is that you believe that you can do, sometimes no one in your space will necessarily agree with you. But you know when you have it in your gut? You know when you were born to do it, even though it looks completely different from what someone can understand? Let me tell you, you're going to have to do it afraid. You're going to have to do it with tears rolling down your eyes. Happy tears. You're going to have to do it frightened. You're going to have to do it tired. You're going to have to do it sleepless night. But I can tell you one thing. You have to believe in you. And it's going to require work. It's going to require discipline. And it's going to require dedication. When I meditate, I'm not meditating because I'm praying. I'm meditating because I'm listening to the voice of God. And so for me, meditation, first thing in the morning, is my quiet place. And when I'm waiting on answers on how, because I know what I was born to do. And so for you who are out there, spend some quiet time listening on the directions on how to do what it is that you know that you were born to do.
Thank you for that.
You're welcome.
Sha, please tell us, we've been talking about Sha and Sha business and all this stuff, but not once have we spoken about what they really need to know so they can follow up and really get a taste. If they want to be healthy and really, really have what they need to ensure that you can have a long, energized life and be emotionally well, then we need to know specifically about your business. So tell us about Eat Emotionally Well. Tell us about your products. Tell us about where we can find you. Just tell us about these enterprises of Sha King.
Well, thank you. So let me tell you, being in the health field for as long as I've been in this field, one of the things I've recognized is when people start a journey of health, it's always diagnostics. People are not fully understanding or not fully being diagnosed of what it is that they need to do to get what it is that they want. So one of the first things I usually recommend is consultation. Consultation is important, and here's why. If a client calls me and they want to know what Sonovia did, the first thing I do is I say, well, tell me a little bit about you. When I start to take you on as a client, my goals over the last 7 years have shifted. It's not just to get you to lose weight, but it's to get you to keep it off and to get you to a place and a mindset of how you see food as nutrition. And so one of the things that I teach and tie in Eating Emotionally Well too is it's so important that you eat well because how you eat affects how you think. And so when people are usually, like I refer to as all over the place, or they're not in their zone, I know it has a lot to do with their food. And so as a nutrition coach, after we do counseling, and I send you a few of my videos just to get you to kind of see what it is that I do, that's usually the template on how we start.
Yes. And if you've never had a Sha King smoothie, oh my goodness, I'm in love with smoothies now.
I know, right? And the thing is, you said that, right? The thing is, people always say, Sha, do you sell smoothies? I really don't sell smoothies. What I do is I actually make and create smoothies for my clients that I'm coaching. And the reason I do that is because smoothies is just one of those easy ways where you can go into an eating plan or program. But the goal, again, is to teach my clients how to make smoothies, good tasting smoothies like I make, so they can make it in their homes and stay on their health and weight loss journey. So that's what I do. I teach you or give you the practical tools that you actually need so you can stay on the journey and keep the weight off.
So Shay, we thank you so much for sharing with us the wind beneath your wings.
Yes.
And because you are, for so many of us, the wind beneath our wings, and helping us to have an appreciation for ourselves and to meet our goals in terms of our health and even our physique. And so, thank you. Thank you for sharing with us today. You are awesome.
Thank you.
You're awesome.
Thank you, thank you. I want to say that I have been one of those people that my business has grown